Hello, I'm Anushka Bhattacharya, a psychology student thrilled to share my insights on emotional signaling. This presentation is all about uncovering why emotions matter so much in our daily interactions, like why anger might protect our boundaries, why fear alerts others to possible danger, or how joy brings closeness to oneself, like it invites closeness to oneself. The learning objectives of this video are number one, recognizing universal components of emotional expressions and how they function as communicative signals. And number two is understanding how cultural context shape, modify, or suppress these signals, influencing how emotions are displayed and interpreted. So let's dive right in. This slide is all about the evolutionary perspective of emotional signaling. So on this slide, we see how emotional signaling dates back to Charles Darwin's pioneering work in the expressions of the emotions in man and animals. Darwin observed that humans share emotional expressions with other species as well. Like, for example, a dog's snarl and a human's angry face could serve the same purpose or the same warning that could mean back off or stay in your limits. So what's fascinating about this is that evolutionary perspective suggests emotions aren't random. They evolved to help us navigate life in groups, like coordinating activities or defending resources and bonding with allies. And modern research by Ekman and Friesen backs up this idea of Darwin. Like they say that people from different cultures can still recognize the same basic emotional expressions, such as fear, anger, sadness, happiness, disgust, or surprise. They all share the same expressions even though they are culturally and ethically different. Moving forward, we enter the world of affective neuroscience, spotlighting Jack Panksepp's groundbreaking work. Panksepp identified primary emotional systems in mammals like fear, rage, and seeking, traced back to the subcortical regions of the brain. By studying neural circuits, he showed how these deep systems shape our behavioral and motivational states and even align with the emotions we experience consciously. When fear circuitry gets activated, for example, our heart rate goes up, or we might freeze or run, and our facial expressions mirrors that fear, like eyes wide open or eyebrows raised. These patterns appear across cultures and even across species. Now we'll be looking at how scientists and clinicians measure emotional expressions. Paul Ekman developed methods to code facial muscle movements known as the Facial Action Coding System, or FACS. Today, machine learning algorithms attempt to detect basic emotions from facial, vocal, or body cues. However, what reads as anger in one cultural context might be respectful firmness in another. So, technology still struggles with cultural nuances like so. Psychophysiological measures can also track changes in heart rate, skin conductance, or blood distribution, helping us identify how body responds in anger, fear, or disgust. At this point, we are bringing Darwin, Ekman, and Panksepp together to paint a comprehensive picture. Darwin highlights the evolutionary roots, Ekman shows us that certain expressions are recognized worldwide, and then Panksepp explains that all mammals share core emotional circuits. On top of that, cultural display rules modify how these universal signals appear. For instance, in some cultural contexts, displaying over anger is discouraged, so people learn to hide over expressions of rage. But the underlying biology, like the increased adrenaline, remains the same. Understanding these interacting forces gives us a richer grasp of how emotions work in everyday life. Now we'll be discussing about the practical takeaways from what all we discussed till now. Emotional signals do more than just broadcast how we feel. They literally hold entire social systems together. Think about how a single genuine smile can diffuse tension or how a firm, calm stance can reassure a nervous crowd. We need to appreciate that while we do inherit universal expressions, culture molds how we use them. So the takeaway is twofold. Number one is knowing the basics of facial, vocal, and bodily signals enhances empathy and helps us respond better to others' needs. Number two is recognizing cultural variations protects us from misreading signals, preventing unintentional offense, and deepening cross-cultural communication. Before we wrap up, let's recap what we discovered. Emotions evolved to serve critical purposes in social living, like alerting to threats or showing a desire for connection. Facial expressions, body postures, and vocal tones often align in coherent ways, revealing underlying states. Culture and context influence the precise shape and display of each emotion, making them dynamic and adaptable across societies. Knowing this can make us more skillful in our own emotional expressions and more perceptive in reading others. After all, the more we see emotions as signals, the better we can use them for empathy, cooperation, and understanding. Finally, here are the references that helped me through this presentation. These are all the reading materials that were provided to us by our teacher, Dr. Levent Auburn, to understand this topic better and in depth. Thank you all for listening so attentively. I hope this little journey through emotional signaling was interesting and insightful. And that's all for this video. Thank you, and let me know if you have any questions for me in the comments.